Good evening. The hour of 6:30 having arrived, I will call to order this regular meeting of the Keene Zoning Board of Adjustment. This meeting is being broadcast live on the City of Keene YouTube channel and the city website. The video is posted on the city website by the end of the next business day, barring any technical difficulties. Anyone wishing to view a copy of the agenda and supporting materials will find it on the city website. To retrieve electronic copies of future agenda packets, please go to the homepage and subscribe to the city meetings email list. The public and other board members will be recognized to ask questions and make comments on the agenda item under discussion. After being recognized, all remarks are to be made through the chair. Anyone who wishes to address the board is asked to go to one of the microphones in the room at the table right there and identify yourself by name and address prior to speaking. As a reminder, the minute takers participating remotely this evening, board members, please be sure to turn on your microphone when speaking. If the minute taker is unable to hear, they will ask that you speak louder or turn your microphone on. So, with that preliminary matter said, I'll introduce myself. My name is Joe Hoppick. I'm the chair, and to my left,
Jane Taylor.
Richard Clough.
and we have a four-member board tonight. We'll address that in a minute. And if the staff could introduce themselves for the public?
Michael Hagan, Acting Zoning Administrator.
Evan Clements, planner.
Thank you both. The first order of business is to vote for chair and vice chair this evening. Because we didn't actually do that. We haven't had a meeting this year. This is our first meeting this year. So anyway, Attorney Taylor.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I would like to nominate you to continue as chair for another year.
Well, thank you. I'll do that.
I'll second.
All right, motion being made and seconded. All those in favor? Please record the vote as 3-0. I'm abstaining. And I'm going to recognize myself and nominate Attorney Jane Taylor as vice chair.
Seconded.
Okay, all those in favor? 3-0.
I don't have to abstain, but I will.
Okay. Anyway, with that business out of the way, do we have any unfinished business that you're aware of?
We do not at this time, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so we'll go directly to the hearings on the agenda.
Minutes.
Oh, sorry. Minutes, I skipped right over the minutes. We have minutes from a previous meeting from back in December. December 4th, 2023. That shows you how long ago it's been since we've been here. Does anybody have any comments on those minutes? Attorney Taylor.
Yeah, I have two. One is a correction, line 237. Just need to flip to it. At the end of the line, there's a number 16,007 square feet. It actually should be 1,607 square feet. So be nice to have a 16,000 square foot family home, but I don't think that was it.
I don't think that would fit on Damon Court,
No.
so.
So anyway, if that could be corrected to 1,607.
Okay.
And the other item is line 338, and it's just something that I didn't understand, and I guess I didn't pick up on it during the hearing. It said, Mr. Weed stated that he thinks the carport roof would have about a 12-10 pitch to the roof. I don't know what 12-10 means, and maybe you could clue me in.
Is that degrees?
Feet? I don't know, angle?
The pitch of the roof, yeah, it would be on the degree per foot of where it lands, so we could go into a math class, but I think it does make sense in the minutes, the way it's written.
Okay, would it, if it's degrees?
It wouldn't be degrees, it would be a pitch, so a 12-10
okay.
pitch.
All right.
So there is such a thing as a
10-12.
12-10 pitch.
A 10-12 pitch.
Okay.
So it
A
should
12-10
probably be,
pitch,
yeah,
right.
it should be,
Well-
So we just leave that alone then?
Okay.
yes, correct.
All right.
I stand educated.
Me too. So the only amendment to the minutes would be to change line 237 from 16,007 square feet to 1,607 square feet. With that being, anybody else have any comments? Not, that being said, and no comments being made, All those in favor of the minutes being approved? Okay, it's 3-0. They're approved. Mr. Guyett was not here then, so it makes sense that he would not vote on them. All right. So the first order of business tonight is ZBA 2024-01. The petitioner, Richard Robideau of Cheshire Builders, 48 Whitmore Farm Road, Swansea, New Hampshire, requests a special exception for property located at 80 Criff Road, tax map number 115-008-000, is in the Limited Commerce District and owned by 80 Criff Road LLC. The petitioner requests a special exception to permit light industrial use in the Commerce Limited District per Article 8.3.5.e of the zoning regulations. Does anyone want to speak to that? Mr. Hayes?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will give you a briefing on the property and location in question. So 80 Criff Road was built, just a little conflicting information, but in our tax records it showed 1986. We issued a building permit in June 29 of 1989 for a 30,000 square foot 14-unit condo building consisting of offices and warehouses. The particular units in question at the moment is Unit 13, 14, 13, 12, and 11. Previously, in January 4th of 1990, there was a permit issued and a CO issued for office and warehousing. In 1994, they expanded from Unit 13 into 12 and 11 for office and warehousing. And currently under Unit 14, the last permitted use was office and warehousing. And there are two ZBA decisions on this property. Neither affect the units in question. There was an appeal administrative decision on two locations, Unit 3 and Unit 1. Both were granted. A little history on this property. When this building was built, it was zoned industrial. In 2013, 2014, this went through a rezoning, and the property has been rezoned to Commerce Limited. Commerce Limited, and in 2021, with the Land Development Code change, there was some changes to the uses or permitted uses within that location, requiring the special exception for the use we have today, in front of you today. So, any questions on that?
Yes, the use that they're looking for today, was that in existence when the 2021 change occurred?
So, to our understanding, the business was in operation in 2018. There are no permits on record for that business going into that location.
Okay, so it's an expansion, basically, as according to the materials. Okay. Any questions about that presentation, anybody? No? Then I guess I would invite the applicant to have a seat and explain the application.
So like Mike said, 603 Optics wants to expand into 2 more condo
Can you just-
spaces.
Can you state your name and address?
Oh, sorry. Rick Robideau, Cheshire Builders,
Thank you.
48 Whitmore Farm Road, Swansea.
Got it.
So 603 Optics would like to expand into 2 more condo spaces to deal with expansion of their company. The changes that are required to make this space usable for them are all interior changes, no load-bearing changes to the facility, and no changes to the outside of the building other than a condenser or 2 that's going to be required to upgrade the heating system to more stringent temperature controls to accommodate their manufacturing. So like I said, everything's inside. Nothing in the expansion is going to be different than what's already there in the first 2 condo spaces. The equipment's similar. There's just going to be a little more of it. The way the building is used on the outside is going to be the same. It's just, processes are all the same. It's just expanded into 2 more spaces. So on terms of affecting structures and important areas of the site and the property, nothing is really going to be any different. When they got these 2 other condo spaces, it came with additional parking. So as they expand slightly with manpower for their manufacturing processes, these other 2 condo areas came with more spaces for parking too. So I don't really see anything changing on the outside of the building other than a couple condensers, and I don't see any issues with the expansion changing what they've been doing for the past 5.5 years. So I think it's a pretty minor scenario. It's just more of a technicality, the way I see it, that we get the zoning right.
Did I see that there'll be about 5 to 9 more employees as a result of this expansion?
Correct. Oh, yeah, there's correct, but you guys have 2 different, yeah, I'm gonna have Matt Zabko come up, he's general manager.
5 to 8, sorry.
Matt Zabko, General Manager, 603 Optics.
Good evening.
So you're gonna have 2,
Yeah, so the intent is to add, like Rick said, 5 to 9 jobs in Keene through this expansion. It's a continuation of what we're already doing there, which is optics manufacturing. It's high-tech manufacturing, and think less machine shop and more lab. Yeah.
but you're gonna work on two different shifts,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, we currently operate on 2 shifts.
And the 5 to 9 added employees is gonna be over a period of time too,
Yeah,
right?
it'll be
Yeah.
over the next year or so. That's the intent, if we continue to grow.
But you're not going to have a third shift, right?
No, at this point, there's no intent to
No
add a
plan for
third
that,
shift.
okay. So explain a little bit about the expected new employees. You're getting 2 new units that will come with their own parking spaces. How many spaces do those units receive as a result of being in that complex? Is it,
Yeah, each unit has 4 spaces with it.
so you'll have
There's
8
8.
new spaces?
Yeah. In the front. Is there more in the back?
8, it's 8, 4 in the front, 4 in the back.
Okay. Oh, sorry, it's 8 per unit.
Oh, so you have 16 spaces for
more
5 to 9 employees, basically. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Does anybody else have any questions of these folks? Attorney Taylor?
Yeah, could you tell me a little bit about what you're planning to do internally? I mean, are you just combining the units? I haven't been inside, so.
Sure, yeah, so basically what we're looking at is a combination of some additional manufacturing space for the manufacture of infrared optics and mirrors, along with an area for quality control, a small area for shipping and receiving, and some additional office and meeting space.
Yeah, I guess my question goes, maybe it's for staff, not knowing what the building looks like inside. Is there any kind of concern for, knocking down walls or reconfiguring the interior, not knowing how it was built?
Thank you for the question. Currently, right now, they do have a building permit application. They have gone through the review process, and we are just working through the remaining issues in order to issue the building permit. One of those issues is receiving the special exception for the use that they're proposing on site. All of the building and fire codes have been addressed to this point. There's just some remaining floodplain questions.
Main,
Floodplain questions.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions or need more information? Okay. Are you all folks here together?
Correct.
Okay, so I was gonna open it up to the public, but I don't see any public here, so except for you two gentlemen in the back. But to be formal, anybody want to speak for this application? Seeing none, anybody want to speak against the application? Don't see that either. So do you folks want to add anything more?
No, I think we've covered all the bases.
I think you have too, thanks. We'll close the public hearing then and go right to the deliberation. So we have to decide 7 questions here. I'll take them one at a time and we can have a conversation about them as we go and then we'll vote on it. The nature of the proposed application is consistent with the spirit and intent of the zoning regulations. This LDC and the city's comprehensive master plan and complies with all applicable standards in the LDC for the particular use. Now, the particular use, as we know, is light industrial, and that, to me, is consistent with the purpose of the Commerce District and its history, since it's been in that kind of use since roughly 1989, from what we heard earlier. So I think it's consistent with the spirit and intent of the zoning regulation and the land development code. And the fact that everything's gonna happen inside, it's just gonna be an expansion of the same activity that's been going on. More machines, more employees, so there's a public interest piece here that the city shouldn't ignore. Which I think, in my view, makes it more consistent with the spirit and intent. And the applicant states here that there's been no noise complaints or no complaints of any kind, and certainly staff didn't mention anything like that, and they're in a review process now for a building permit, so I think the criterion number 1 is satisfied. I don't know if anybody else wants to comment on that. Attorney Taylor?
Yeah, I agree with you. I just add that it's consistent with other types of activity that is going on in, not only in that condominium complex, but in that area of Winchester Street.
Okay. I agree with that, too. The second criterion is that the proposed use will be established, maintained, and operated so as not to endanger the public health, safety, or welfare. In my view, I don't see anything in this application, especially given the fact that everything's gonna happen inside, that would indicate that the proposed use would be established, maintained, or operated so as to endanger any public health, safety, or welfare. I just don't see any information in the presented or in the materials that even would suggest that, so I think the second criterion is satisfied. Attorney Taylor?
Yeah, I'd just add that since it is contained inside the building, there is not anything noxious, which I think comes later as well, but there's nothing that would impact unless you guys do wheelies in the parking lot.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Yes, Mr. Guyette.
There was mention of an additional access point or loading dock.
No.
No, it's not a loading dock. There's existing roll-up doors. We're just gonna use a portion of that existing door space for shipping and receiving. There's no, it's UPS, UPS or parcel size stuff. It's not tractor trailer trucks.
Let me just remind everybody, the public hearing is closed. I realized he asked the question and you answered it, and that's fine, so, but technically the public hearing is over, but we'll just excuse that and move on. But did you get your question answered? Okay. I'd rather have the information out there, quite frankly. Any other comments about the second criterion? Okay. The third one is that the proposed use will be established, maintained, and operated so as to be harmonious with the surrounding area and will not impede the development, use, and enjoyment of adjacent property. I think that goes to Attorney Taylor's point a second ago, and I don't think there is any question that the proposed use will be established, maintained, and operated so it will be harmonious with the surrounding areas. Anybody wish to?
I agree.
Okay.
It's all contained, already happening. Sounds good.
Attorney Taylor?
And if we're looking at adjacent property being the other condominiums, they're all essentially developed.
Right. proposed use will be of a character that does not produce noise, odors, glare, and/or vibration that adversely affects the surrounding area. This came up in the presentation as well, and it seems to me that the proposed use will be an extension of what's there into two new units that'll create a greater space. There'll be no additional noise, there'll be no additional odors, no odors anyway. No glare, glare is not an issue, vibration is not an issue, and the surrounding areas will not be affected, from what I can see. So I'm satisfied that number 4 is met. Does anybody want to comment? Mr.
I'll
Clough?
just say, I think a number of those issues would actually impact what they try to do there. So they would try to keep that all to a minimum anyway.
Given the fact that they're precision optic creators, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's a good
Good
observation.
point.
The 5th criterion is that the proposed use will not place an excessive burden on public improvements, facilities, services, or utilities. I don't think there's anything in this application that suggests they'll draw more water, draw more light, draw more police activity or fire activity to that site, or be a burden on any public facility or improvement in the area. I don't see it.
In fact, it may, can you make sure your microphone's on, sir? Do I have to push the button? Yes, it's green.
Ah, got it.
You're gonna learn by doing here, so sorry about that.
It's okay, no worries. If anything, it's gonna improve electrical consumption because of the LED conversion in that space and adjacent spaces.
That's right, okay. Attorney Taylor? Are we all set? All right. The 6th criterion, the proposed use will not result in the destruction, loss, or damage of any feature determined to be of significant natural, scenic, or historic importance. Well, notwithstanding the fact that Criff Road has been there forever, I don't think there's anything that's quite historic down there or deemed of significant historic importance. It's too far away from the river, and there's really no part of this use that'll impact anything that's of natural scenery down there. So, again, there'll be no impact to the environment. Anybody want to comment? Number 7, the proposed use will not create a traffic safety hazard or a substantial increase in the level of traffic congestion in the vicinity of the use. The only indication, they're going to have 5 to 9 new jobs with more than sufficient parking spaces to cover those new employees. So I don't see any, and they're going to be in 2 shifts. So the impact of that minimal amount of traffic is going to be nothing on this site. And that's what I think about criterion number 7. Anybody want to comment?
I agree.
Okay. So we had a discussion on the 7 criteria. I guess if you agree with that discussion and those comments, we would want to make a vote or a motion to approve 2024-01. Does anybody want to, Attorney Taylor?
Yeah, I move that we approve application ZBA 2024-01 for a special exception for property located at 80 Criff Road, tax map 115-008-000 in the Commerce Limited District.
I'll second it.
Mr. Clough seconds the motion. Now, this is to permit a light industrial use in that district. All those in favor, raise your hand, raise your right hand. It's 4-0 in favor. I don't think so. We covered it. Got a good record. You guys have any questions?
No.
Thank you.
Then it's time to go out and have a beer. For you guys, anyway.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you,
Yep.
guys. Appreciate it.
So with respect to our second case, ZBA 2024-02, we are informed that the applicant, give me a moment here. 1925 Grove Street LLC has requested through an email through the Land Use Department a continuance of the hearing because we do not have a 5-member board, which is true. So we are inclined to routinely grant those when that happens, when the applicant lets us know, when they're not required to appear. So I would entertain a motion from someone that would allow 2024-02 to be continued to the next meeting, which would be first Monday in April. Mr. Close?
No, I'll make a motion that we forward that to the next meeting.
I have a procedural question.
Oh, I'm going to read it into the, you're right, I'm
Yeah.
a step ahead of myself. Let me read it into the record and open the hearing first, and then
Okay.
I'll recognize you, Mr. Clough. ZBA 2024-02, petitioner Thomas Hanna of BCM Environmental and Land Law PLLC Keene requests a variance for property located at 19 Grove Street, tax map 585-055-000. Is in the residential preservation district and is owned by 1925 Grove Street LLC at 295 Seaver Road, Harrisville. Petitioner requests a variance to permit the conversion of a legally non-conforming office use to a third apartment unit in the residential preservation district per Article 325 of the zoning regulations. Now, we'll open the meeting, and Mr. Clough.
I move that we forward this to the next meeting in accordance to the request of the petitioner.
Motion to continue to next meeting. Anybody want to second that?
I'll second.
What's the date on that? Does anybody know?
It's gonna be April 19th. No, excuse me.
That's a little too far down the road.
Yeah,
April.
April
April.
1st.
No fooling. Oh, it is. All right, so it'll be continued to April 1st at 6:30.
Second?
And Attorney Taylor seconded that motion. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. That's 4-0 in favor. All right, so that takes care of that, and we have a couple of other matters here. Do we have our 2024 meeting calendar?
Mr. Chair, it's up on the screen, if you,
Should also be in the,
It
in the
should be-
packet
agenda
as well.
packet.
I'm trying to find it in here, but
It's going to be page 52.
52?
Yes.
I have it now. Sorry about that. So this schedule essentially shows when the deadline dates are for applications in conjunction with the meeting date at which it will be taken up. We're already, well, a third of the way through the year. Anyway. Anybody have any questions about the schedule?
Do we need to vote to adopt it, or is it just,
You do.
okay, so I move that we adopt the 2024 meeting schedule as presented.
I'll
And
second
Mr.
it.
Cleffel seconded. Thank you, sir. All those in favor, please raise your hand. That carries unanimously. So the schedule for 2024 is adopted, a third of the way through the year. All right. And then the next item we have is rules of procedure updates. And that would be on, I think, the amendments that we're examining are on page 56 of 68, 57. Wait a minute now. I have two sets of drafts of that. And then fees on 59.
I'd be happy to explain what's going on, Mr. Chairman.
And then there's page 60, yes, please.
Okay, so Evan Clements, planner. So what we're proposing to you this evening is two changes to your rules of procedure. One related to the type of mailing product staff utilizes to notify abutters and other required notified parties for public hearings. This is part of a comprehensive effort that the Community Development Department is doing to update all of our land use boards for abutter notification. Currently, the certified mailing rate is $5.06. There is another product that the post office uses, it's called certificate of mailing, where they verify that we have brought these letters to the post office to then be mailed to abutters and other required parties, and it is significantly cheaper per letter, and it meets, after discussing with the city attorney, we believe it meets our statutory requirement, and so we are systematically going through and making this change to all land use boards. What's unique for you guys is you have all of that language embedded into your rules of procedure. So what we are showing before you is some changes to that, as well as an update to the situation of what happens when you've got a, what is it? The 2-2 situation. There's an update in statute that basically says if you don't have 3 members voting in a certain direction, you have to table to the next meeting until you've got enough members of the zoning board to be able to issue a 3X verdict. So that has been proposed to be added into the rules of procedure. And then you also have your application fees in your rules of procedure, but I'm going to hold off on that change until we go over the other proposed changes to the rules of procedure, because that's got, it's a different agenda item, and we've got some research to go over. So if you'd like, Mr. Chairman, I can just start with the proposed changes, and then I can also explain why you also have something that's got a red highlight on it.
Yes. So it looks like the first of the changes start on page 57 of 68, is that correct?
56.
Oh, yep, it's going to be on page 56, Mr.
56.
Chairman. So I believe we're changing under, Mike, do you want to, sounds like you got a better.
I can talk to this one, Mr. Chair. We no longer, there's no longer a application for a change of a non-conforming use. It's been an enlargement or expansion of a non-conforming use. So that's been changed to reflect our new land development code wording.
Okay, so that's essentially a non-substantive, just corrective.
Correct.
All right, so the next one is on 57. Certificate of mail versus certified mail.
That's correct. So on, we've got the proposed change to change from certified to certificate of mail. I've also got a proposal to eliminate the description of the product for the post office and instead just insert in accordance with requirements of RSA 676-7. So then as the statute evolves and things change, we don't have to come back in here and make this change again. It just basically states that we will be notifying abutters and other required parties as required by state statute.
And where is it supposed to say that?
So that would be under,
It would be your separate form that he handed you with the red writing.
yeah, so that's going to be procedures for filing applications, A, little b, I, personal notice shall be made by, or should be made in accordance with the requirements of RSA 676-7 to the applicant and to all abutters and holders of conservation, preservation, or agricultural preservation restrictions, not less than 5 days before the date of filing.
So that's what the final language is proposed.
That is
proposing.
what we're currently recommending.
Okay.
And on the back, it has a similar change?
That's correct, because there's another section in your rules of procedure that also discuss notification to abutters and public. So that same change is proposed instead of changing it from certified to certificate of mail. And then also, just going back a step, little d, abutter notification materials. It's just providing some clarifying information as to who needs to be included on that abutters list, including the property owner, the applicant, and authorized agent, as well as those easement holders.
That's that little D on page 57 of 68, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
And that's all just reflective of state statute.
Yep.
And then little I, we're changing it from certified letters to abutters to just say required mailing. And that's in regard to a check in an amount sufficient to cover the cost of legal notice, advertising, and required mailing.
All right, very good. Now, do you want us to tackle these in a block of those 4 changes, essentially? You have 4 areas, as I count them, of proposed amendments. But there's more after that, which,
So yeah, so we don't need to make a motion at this point. If we're ready to move on from the mailing and then the other sort of clerical changes that we've talked about so far, we can go on to the fee increase.
we didn't talk about the voting and decisions.
Oh, that's later.
Yep, we can skip ahead to that if you prefer.
Oh, no, all right, I'm confused. I thought you wanted to table the fees to another night.
You're right, no, not to another night, just, I was
All right.
trying to order this discussion a little bit, but I didn't realize that the fees were gonna come up before the voting and decisions,
Let's do the voting and decisions, and then we'll hit the fees,
certainly.
all right?
So the section of voting, big B, prior to voting action, the board shall render as appropriate findings of fact. This is the new language, and a decision by majority vote consisting of at least 3 concurring members. And then we're also adding, in the case of a tie vote, the applicant can either withdraw their application upon written request, or the board shall vote to continue the application to the next meeting with a full 5-member board.
Attorney Taylor?
Yeah, just quickly, where it says in case with a tie vote, do you mean in case of a tie vote?
Yes.
Okay.
Here's the problem I see with this. And we'll use those gentlemen that have already left, since they've already left, and they can't object to being guinea pigs. Let's say tonight we voted 2-2 on that, because there's only 4 of us here. We voted 2-2. They could say, okay, we want to come back next week. Well, next week, or next month, rather. Next month, we come back, we have our 5 members. We start again, because we didn't have our 5th member here then. We have to start from the beginning. As long as nobody minds that, I think that's necessary.
So you're saying that you would restart your deliberation back from the beginning?
No, we'd restart the hearing from the scratch, from the very beginning, because that 5th member hasn't heard a thing about this.
I think that's fair, and I think
Yeah, I
that's,
think it's fair, too.
it's part of the consequence of requesting to continue their hearing, is that they're gonna have
It's
to.
absolutely fair. It's not an efficient use of our time, but it's fair. And I'm wondering if it just makes sense to say to people, if you have any inclination, just continue it. It's not gonna hurt you. But there are cases where, and we've had them, where people are under the gun with a timeline, like a grant, that fellow back here a couple of months ago with a grant. So, I'm not sure how to solve that problem, and I guess it's best just to leave it up to the applicant.
Change the statute back to the way it was.
Right? That's too easy to ask for.
Well,
Too
the
hard to-
applicant maintains the right to accept a 2-2 split, or a 3-2 vote, 4-member or 5-member, correct?
Well, they need to have
So-
3 votes in the affirmative to get it passed.
Right, but if they're at a meeting and there are only 4 members present, they can decide to go with that, or they could decide to push it to the next meeting, correct?
But that's not what this says. They can decide to go with the 4 of us and then say, well, it's a tie, so then they get the right to kick it to the next meeting, to sort of have another bite at the apple. I would prefer it if they would just sort of fish or cut bait now, if you will, and tell us, we don't want a 4-member board, we'll wait till the 5th guy comes here, a 5th person, and just be done. So there's no risk of a tie, because this happened not less than 6 months ago. So, and like I said, I don't mind, because I think it's gonna happen infrequently. If somebody says it's a tie vote, we'd wanna have the 5th member next meeting. as long as everybody's aware that we have to start over again, that's fine with me.
Yeah, and I would just add that the rules of procedure will need to allow the instance where you aren't anticipating a 2-2 split, and then you end up with one. So then you would need to keep it going. You can't just rely on the applicant voluntarily punting, because you might not know,
Right.
Right.
right? You might think the board is gonna go all one way, and then it doesn't, so.
So, well, that's why it says that the board shall vote to continue, so it would be the board that would be continuing the application for further hearing.
That's correct.
Yeah, not the applicant.
Yeah, I would, I'm sort of filling in for Corinne
Yeah.
with this one right now, so I do apologize that I'm not super well-versed in the implication of all these changes. But just reading this now, it says, or the board shall vote to continue the application to the next meeting with a full 5-member
Yeah.
board,
If they don't withdraw it.
if they don't withdraw it. But
But it-
how do we know when the next meeting with a full 5-member board will
Yeah,
be?
you don't-
You never know, because somebody could get sick, like somebody did tonight, or it's, like a
So-
lot of things, a crapshoot.
Yeah, so that might need to be the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Yes, that's what it normally is, like the motion we did before, the next
Right.
April 1st meeting. Attorney Taylor.
We had a case last year, and I can't for the life of me remember which one it was, where we didn't have a full 5-member board for several months.
Mhm.
And the application was continued and continued and continued. So I think that's what this is maybe getting at. Because it wouldn't make any sense to continue it to the next meeting if there were only 4 members present, because you could be put in the same situation.
Yeah. But if you can never know if you're gonna have
Oh.
5 members,
I think you have to keep continuing it.
yeah, until you get until you get to a 5-member, or the applicant says, fine, vote with 4, and we'll see how it goes.
And if they don't withdraw it, then we're pretty much duty bound to continue it.
That, as written, that's
Yeah.
kind of what I'm thinking, versus just saying that the application shall be continued to the next regularly scheduled meeting. Then if you get to the next regularly scheduled meeting and you've got to do it again, you still have the ability to do that, but you're not potentially stuck in this like continuation loop if you can never get 5 people sitting. I don't know. I mean, that's a dramatic, literal interpretation of that.
That's when we'll break out the chains and chain them to the chair and have the vote one way or another.
So I don't know. That's up to you all if
No, I don't have any objection to the way it's written, as long as everybody understands the implications of it. That's my concern. And the applicants, they should be aware of that before they go forward, because they can withdraw it at the beginning before we even start, like the applicant did tonight for 02. They just said, push it off for us. They didn't withdraw it, they asked us to continue it.
Mhm.
So, and that's fine too.
Yeah.
Attorney Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, we don't exactly know what the procedures are in the office when somebody comes in and applications are scheduled for hearings. But maybe part of it, and maybe this is already being done, would be to let applicants know, by the way, if you go with a 4-member board and it's a 2-2 tie, it's gonna end up being continued anyway, so do you wanna continue? I don't know if that conversation is happening, but it might be something that would be worthwhile considering.
We do make the applicants aware of their rights on the application and the rules of procedure for that. If they do choose to move forward with a 4-member board, like the applicants here tonight, they chose to move forward, we made them aware, and they.
But are they aware that there's what may happen if there's a tie?
Yeah, either they can withdraw the application because no decision has been made, or.
But they're told that.
Yes.
Oh, okay, that's
Yep.
what I was getting at.
Yeah, they ask, a lot of them are pretty smart and ask that question as well. Well, what if there's a split vote? And we explain this criteria to them.
Thank you.
Okay, so,
Question. Do applicants, as a matter of course, receive these rules of procedures?
They do not, no. They are available on the website and available to be posted, both on our website and in the office. So if they request it or find it on the internet, that it's all available to the public.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and the application procedures that staff normally use are in Article 25 of the Land Development Code. So normally we direct applicants there.
Okay. So there was one other provision in subparagraph C that I think Attorney Taylor has some comments on. I'll let you have the floor then.
Yeah, actually, this was, other than that one typo, this is the only comment I had for the whole thing of changes. So I appreciate the work that's gone into this. That last sentence, all notices of decision will expire in 24 months commencing with the date, and, I mean, you can read the rest of it. It's really confusing, and I don't feel, at least in my opinion, that it's following the state statute. So, because it really doesn't, the state statute talks about final approval, and this doesn't contemplate as written what would happen if there was a motion for rehearing which extends the date, or an appeal to Superior Supreme Court. So I think what I'd like to suggest is that it read, all notices of decision will expire in 24 months, commencing with the date following the date of final approval, and just end it there. And that's kind of more reflective of what the statute says.
What we can do, just to make sure we're consistent with some of our other information, is we can take this back and have staff rewrite it and present it to you next month, if that works for you, just so we're not trying to change it on the fly and having to change it later on as well.
Yeah, well,
If you
the
want to
stat-
leave section C off, we can bring you some language, some alternative language at next month's meeting.
Yeah, the statute that I am referring to was, is RSA 674-33, 1-A, parent A. It's probably one of the most confusingly numbered statutes in the book. So, and that was what I was concerned about, because that references final approval.
And when you consider the appellate track of cases, after they leave here, they go to the Superior Court, and then they may go to the Supreme Court, that makes perfect sense. And it is, and I agree, it's consistent with what I read in 674-33, 1A1, or 1AA, sorry.
Yeah, we can take a look at that language and try and wordsmith it into there with some review. We didn't have a chance to look at it prior to the meeting, so
That's
we couldn't
okay.
come up with any language for you, but we'll certainly, as staff, take a look
That's
at that.
why we're
and-
having a conversation now, no big
Absolutely.
deal.
No, it's not a problem, I just think that would clarify it.
So before we let you off the hook on this, then, you wanted to talk about fees.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're proposing to increase the application fee from $100 to $250.
And that's essentially the information in the staff report that concludes the packet for tonight's meeting, right?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
On page 65.
Right.
So staff conducted an analysis of fees that our sister communities require for variance requests and other zoning board applications. And we also noted that an adjustment to the fee schedule hasn't been conducted since 2017. And while each community does it a little bit differently, we basically came to a decision that the increase from 100 to 250 will do a little bit more to capture the amount of cost that goes into, that's taken up by staff time in preparing the applications, while not being unduly burdensome to applicants themselves.
I have a couple of questions out of more curiosity than anything else. I see Nashua has a fee for more than one request. We don't get many of those. Sometimes we do, but for example, if you have two variances in one application, I suppose, is that what that means?
Correct. There may be multiple variants asked for as far as like setbacks or impervious coverage
Okay,
on
yep.
one lot.
And the other one from Concord, an interesting one, is the rehearing fee of $50. So if they want to rehear, file a motion to rehear, have we considered that?
We
don't
did
get
not
many of
consider it in this review time.
Okay, we don't get many of them, though.
No.
I'm not sure how helpful it would be. Attorney Taylor?
Yeah, I just have one comment. I'd be curious to see what Claremont did, because they're the next ones up the road. But I really want to say that I appreciate the work that went into this. It's very helpful because whenever we're challenged, there's case law out there that says essentially that you can't charge fees for more than what the cost is that you're incurring. So if the city's ever challenged on any of this, you've got the documentation to show what it's costing. So I really do appreciate the effort that's gone into this.
And to just sort of follow up on that, it's pretty clear that we're charging less than the cost it takes you guys to do this notice business, so if we ever audit it by it, I don't know if that ever happens, but the city should pass with flying colors. Flying colors.
Yeah, I take no credit for any of that work that got put together.
I will give all the credit to Corinne Marcouche. She put this together, did a great job, did the research, and really came up with a reasonable fee to cover costs, the ongoing and rising costs of operating.
Well,
Yeah.
please pass along our compliments.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
I can do
Of
that
the
for you.
board, yes, thank you. So the recommendation is $250 for.
That's correct, Mr.
Now,
Chairman.
should we, just as a matter of, I guess, keeping this all in one package, should we just wait until you give us the revised policy changes, or?
That'd be my recommendation, and then you get a nice clean vote next month for to basically adopt the new rules of procedure with all those changes.
But if we just acted on the fees tonight, couldn't you start charging them?
No. So our land use board fees are also tied into the city code of ordinances.
So the council has to approve it.
That's correct. So,
Okay.
so staff we're going around to all our land use boards, having you all approve your fee changes, and then we're gonna sew that into one proposed ordinance change, which we'll bring to city council.
And have them accept them all or not, essentially.
Basically, yeah. The planning board also will need to adopt a new fee for the new cottage court overlay conditional use permit if that gets approved. So we're trying to line this all up so we can all just do it at one time.
I see. Attorney Taylor?
Yeah, so just procedurally, looking at our rules and amendments, so tonight's the discussion, so we shouldn't be voting on them anyway tonight, right?
My understanding was that this was brought up as an initial discussion at your last meeting.
It's actually probably 6 meetings ago. We've been pushing it off for a while. We had a pretty heavy agenda going into the end of the year, and then we haven't met for 3 months, or
So we,
2
I don't think
2
we've
months.
discussed it, we just sort of discussed the need to do it, not
Yes.
the actual provision.
Yeah, this is the first substantive conversation we've had on any of these changes. So-
Correct.
Okay, then I see where you're going with that, Madam Vice Chair. So doing it next month is also appropriate procedurally.
Right.
And we're not going to screw up any timelines you guys are worried about, are you? Are we?
No, we're still
Okay.
months out. I'm still
Oh, then we'll-
wrangling the historic district as well, so no sweat.
All
Well,
right,
yeah, and I think we've had discussion on that one area about the final approval, so
yes.
hopefully that should be an easy enough one to resolve.
I think so.
Okay. So it looks like we've discussed all the new business we needed to discuss. Do we have any communications and miscellaneous?
Not at this time, Mr. Chair.
Wonderful, all right. Then, in that case, I will declare the meeting adjourned, so we don't have any non-public session to worry about. Oh, one more thing.
Sorry, I was talking with our, I don't know if you've met, Jesse Brown's our Community Development Director. He's here tonight. I just want to introduce him. We've been talking about doing maybe a session to go over the broad scope of the zoning ordinance, maybe doing a presentation one night when we don't have a heavy agenda, just kind of going over that will help you be able to navigate the zoning ordinance maybe a little bit easier. We have 2 new board members. I don't know when the last time that was done, but I'd like to maybe put together a presentation for you to maybe help when you see the applications and are reviewing them, that you can maybe navigate a little bit easier through the ordinance. And it's a new change, you know, with the land development code.
I think that would be welcome.
Okay, I can put that together.
Mr. Guyette heard me say you sort of learn by doing around here, and he was like, oh, no. So that would be welcome.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of stuff that flies by your eyes, and it's daunting sometimes.
And you can research it yourself and be knowledgeable. I think that's the biggest part of being on a board is education, and we'll try and give you with the, present you with the best education we can, so that you can make the best decision for the community.
Great, then you can just report on that more next time? Give us some
Yes, I
some
will, yeah,
dates?
I'll put it together. I think next month's gonna be
Well, we already
heavier.
know we have one on the docket.
A heavier agenda. I think we're going to see at least 4, from what we've been notified, 4 in addition to this one. So we may see a little heavier agenda. I probably won't put it on there for next month because you guys will have some discussion on the ones that are coming up. But maybe we can shoot for maybe May or June, depending upon schedule.
You've got the best finger on that pulse, so
Okay.
go put it on when you think it's best.
Great.
Okay,
Thank you.
so with that, we'll call the meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody, for their time and efforts. 7:27.